Mr. President, the Senate is considering an infrastructure bill, and I'm glad we are. For too long, Americans have been compelled to send their tax dollars overseas to improve the infrastructure of other countries. I've been fighting for several years to invest the infrastructure here at home, which is why I find it frustrating that the very people who are celebrating this bill today actually opposed my efforts in the past. We have a short memory here in the Senate. Only 2 years ago, I offered my penny plan for infrastructure for a vote. My plan would have invested nearly $40 billion in infrastructure over those 2 years. In those 2 years, nearly 20,000 miles of roads could have been resurfaced. Instead, those investments weren't made, and 2 additional years of wear and tear passed by as we continued to send our money to pave roads overseas instead of paving roads here. The parade of senators who are now coming to the floor and expounding upon the urgency of this package, nothing less than shocking, particularly when those were the same senators who voted against 20,000 miles of resurfaced roads only a short time ago. The penny plan for infrastructure was not my only effort to invest in infrastructure. 6 years ago, I worked on a bipartisan package that would have made $130 billion available for infrastructure. Had my plan been enacted into law, Americans would now be driving on 130,000 miles of new roads without adding 1 penny of debt. So why, for more than 5 years, have my infrastructure proposals been stifled? For only one reason. Each of my proposals was actually paid for, not fake pay-fors like this bill, but actually paid for where we don't add to the deficit. Now, if there's only one thing that Congress always seems to agree on, though, that's never to pay for anything. So as you see the spending blitz going on, the spending frenzy, you're going to see mountains of debt, trillions of dollars of debt. It's not the way we ought to be doing this. We should be paying for this bill and doing it by cutting waste and excessive spending from other parts of the budget. Proponents of this bill claim that it's paid for. They use gimmicks, budgetary gimmicks. They hope they'll erect enough smoke and mirrors to obscure this enormous price tag. But this $1.2 trillion bill is not paid for. And perhaps the most alarming part of the cost is the authors of this bill know that it's not paid for. We know that because they actually wrote into the bill so as to exempt it from the rules that require the bill to be paid for. You see, Congress back in 2010 mandated that new spending had to be paid for. That law is called statutory pay-go, or pay-as-you-go. And if Congress can't help itself and refuses to offset the cost of new spending, pay-go is enforced by an automatic cut to spending across the board. But Congress rarely adheres to its own rules. Instead, Congress waived pay-go more than 60 times over the past decade and added over $10 trillion to our debt. This time is no different. This bill, which its proponents say is paid for, also carries a provision that says pay-go won't apply to it. The only way to ensure Congress adheres to pay-go is through a point of order. That's what I'm putting forward. In this bill, if it were actually paid for, then you shouldn't have trouble supporting this point of order. But if senators vote to waive the point of order, if they vote to exempt Congress from its own rules, requiring that we be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, then these senators should they need to stop telling people something that they know is not true. The truth is, this infrastructure bill is not paid for. And every American should ask a simple question. Why won't Congress obey even their own rules? This bill, plus the next pork-laden bill that will add trillions of dollars to the debt, we're adding debt at an unprecedented pace. There will be repercussions. A day of reckoning awaits. But today there's a choice to make. A vote for the point of order is a vote not to keep adding debt. I urge my colleagues to vote with me to stop the bleeding, to stop the red ink that threatens our country's very future.